Yosemite National Park is world-renowned for its towering walls, vast meadows, and waterfalls that plunge thousands of feet. But hiding behind all that beauty is a far more dangerous side.
The body of a hiker was recovered just a few hours ago after he fell off Half Dome.
In 2024, Yosemite was the 6th most visited park in the United States, but it also ranked 3rd in total fatalities with more than 1,300 deaths since it opened in 1890. That's an average of about 10 people every year. And as you're about to see, it isn't daredevils or bear attacks driving those numbers, but seemingly simple mistakes made in a place that offers no second chances. And then some visitors just disappear, lost in the labyrinth of cliffs and valleys, never to be seen again. So what's going on in Yosemite, and what are the avoidable mistakes that are putting people at risk? Let's find out. The United States has 63 national parks, and in 2024 alone, they received more than 94 million visitors. Yosemite is one of the most popular, drawing in over 4 million people every year. And it isn't hard to see why. Families hike the scenic Mist Trail, climbers scale the impossible walls of El Capitan, and photographers chase the same shots that Ansel Adams immortalized over a century ago. But that's kind of the problem. When a place like Yosemite becomes this iconic, this crowded, people forget it's still wilderness. Many treat the park like an outdoor Disneyland, where nature has been tamed and made safe for everyone. But the reality is very different. The park covers 1,200 square miles of rugged terrain, granite valleys carved by glaciers, vast river networks, and waterfalls that plunge more than 2,000 feet. And for those who aren't careful, this environment can be treacherous. Since 1890, nearly half of all Yosemite fatalities have been unintentional accidents, small mistakes with fatal consequences. And the wildlife here is the perfect example of its deceptively dangerous nature. Yosemite is home to more than 400 species of animals. Yet despite what most people think, the most dangerous aren't the black bears, mountain lions, or even a snake. It's this: a mule deer. In the park's 130-year history, there's only been one confirmed case of a person killed by wildlife. It happened in 1977 when a young boy tried to feed a deer potato chips. Startled, it attacked, and its 5-inch antlers punctured his lung and nicked an artery.
Here's this little 6-year-old laying on the floor, and what has happened is he's been gored by a deer. The local rangers are working on him. There's blood everywhere. His parents are there.
That might be the only fatal case, but non-fatal deer attacks are extremely common, enough that rangers routinely cite deer as the park's most dangerous animal. And it makes sense. Mule deer are everywhere here, and visitors consistently underestimate them. They get too close, try to feed or touch them, but when a buck feels threatened, it lashes out with antlers sharp enough to pierce bone. Black bears, on the other hand, are a different story. People expect them to be dangerous, so they keep their distance. And yes, they're notorious for raiding cars and campsites. In 1998 alone, there were 1,600 incidents involving bears, causing more than $600,000 in property damage. But despite their reputation, not a single human has ever been killed by a bear in Yosemite. In fact, the total opposite is true. People are far more dangerous to bears than bears are to us. In July 2025 alone, 7 bears were hit by vehicles, 2 of which were killed. And cars aren't just killing the wildlife, they're killing people too. Between 2013 and 2024, there were 5,187 crashes here, 10 of which were fatal. Places like Yosemite create perfect environments for car crash conditions, which is why speed limits here are deliberately very slow. The congestion is part of the problem. In summer, the valley roads become backed up for hours, jammed bumper to bumper with rental RVs, many driven by people who barely know how to handle them. Then there's the distractions. The valley is a master of stealing your attention. It's almost impossible not to stare at El Capitan or Yosemite Falls while winding through the valley. Add in wildlife collisions, which happen here at twice the national average, fatigue from hours of driving, and narrow mountain roads with no guardrails, and it's easy to see how accidents occur. And while the roads can be deadly, Yosemite's water has proven to be just as fatal.
Yosemite 911.
Hello, I'm just calling because somebody fell from Nevada Falls.
Okay, how far did they fall? I don't know. I think they went down the waterfall.
Confirm was he in the water at the top and then went over?
She said, yeah, she just see him go over.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Go ahead, ma'am. Can you stay on the line?
Drowning is the park's second leading cause of death. Between 2007 and 2023, 21 people drowned here. About 12% of all fatalities during that period. The rivers look inviting after a long, hot hike, but don't be misled. The currents are often far stronger than they appear, and the slick granite can sweep you off your feet, pinning you under boulders or carrying you over the edge of a waterfall. It's a deadly combination, and every season there's a new case of a fatal drowning. One of the most heartbreaking incidents happened in the summer of 2012, when two brothers, cooling off with their family below Vernal Fall, were swept away. Their mother desperately tried to save them, but a week later their bodies were found pinned under a boulder, just 150 yards from where they were last seen. And even when the water looks calm, Yosemite's rivers hide another danger. Fed by snowmelt, the park's water often feels shockingly cold. Even in July, a plunge can trigger cold shock, an uncontrollable gasp that can drown you instantly. Cold shock is one of the most underestimated and misunderstood dangers of swimming. If you want to find out more, I've done a full breakdown of it in another video, which I'll add in the description below. But it isn't the water that often draws people to Yosemite. It's the rock. And for climbers, it's the center of the universe. El Capitan, Half Dome, and Sentinel Rock represent the biggest granite walls in North America. And the achievements made here have become the stuff of legend. In 1957, Royal Robbins and his team made the ascent of Half Dome's regular northwest face, the first grade 6 climb in the United States. Then, in 1994, Lynn Hill became the first person to free climb the nose in a single day. And who can forget Alex Honnold's solo of El Capitan in 2018, a feat captured in the Oscar-winning film Free Solo. The allure is intoxicating, and thousands flock to the valley every year, hoping to follow in that history. But glory here comes with risk, and even the best climbers aren't immune.
An elite professional climber is recovering this morning after a terrifying fall and rescue at Yosemite National Park. Emily Harrington was trying to scale El Capitan, which stands a towering 3,200 feet. She's very lucky because she suffered only minor injuries and a mild concussion.
There are more than 100 climbing accidents every year, and on average, 2 climbers die each season. And surprisingly, it isn't reckless daredevils who make up most of these numbers. Roughly 40% of fatalities are caused by gear failure, and more than 60% involve seasoned climbers with years of experience on these walls. The valley's history is literally littered with the names of climbers who never came back. Derek Hersey, one of the best free soloists of his generation, slipped while climbing Sentinel Rock without a rope and fell hundreds of feet to his death. Then, in 2006, renowned big wall climber Todd Skinner died when his harness snapped as he began rappelling after a successful ascent. More recently, Jason Wells and Tim Klein, who had submitted El Capitan more than 200 times between them, fell to their deaths on the easiest section of the 3,000-foot face. But while climbing accidents might grab the headlines, when it comes to sheer numbers, nothing claims more lives in the park than this final danger. In Yosemite, nothing has proven to be more deadly than slips and falls. Since 1890, more than 300 visitors have died after making a single fatal misstep. And perhaps the worst spot to place a wrong foot in the entire park is on the Half Dome cables. The route guides hikers up a sheer granite wall using steel handrails and wooden planks, which on a clear day is challenging enough. But when it's crowded, wet, or stormy, the risk of a fatal slip here increases drastically. At least a dozen people have died on the cables since they were installed in 1919, with countless more being seriously injured. Most recently, in July 2024, 20-year-old Grace Roloff lost her footing while descending with her father. He tried to grab her, but she slid past his outstretched hand and fell to her death in front of hundreds of other hikers. And even if you make it to the top, the danger doesn't end. In 2011, 23-year-old Ryan Leader fell more than 2,500 feet from the summit after a single misstep. And then there are those tragic falls fueled by vanity. One of those cases happened in 2018. A young couple posing for selfies at Taft Point got too close to the edge and fell 800 feet. Rangers later recovered their camera still on the summit, filled with photos taken just moments before. And these aren't isolated cases. Yosemite's granite is slick, its cliffs are vertical, and the line between a breathtaking view and a fatal fall is only a single step wide. But beyond the falls, drownings, and fatal crashes, some of Yosemite's most tragic instances have no explanation at all. In the last 45 years, 30 visitors have vanished from the park, never to be seen again. One of the most unusual cases involved 14-year-old Stacy Aras. In 1981, she left her cabin to hike the Sunrise Lakes, approximately just a mile and a half away. In broad daylight, on a marked trail, and with other members of her party just 20 minutes away, she disappeared and was never seen again. 45 years later, and after the largest search in park history, all that was ever found was her camera lens cap. More recently, in 2021, 31-year-old Joel Tomazin set out on a solo kayak trip from the Hetch Hetchy Reservoir. He planned to spend a few nights in the wilderness before returning to his car, but he never did. Rangers later found his kayak paddle and some scattered gear, but there was no sign of Joel. Alright, so before you cancel that next trip to Yosemite, it's worth understanding the full picture. Because the truth is, national parks are extremely safe provided you follow the rules. According to the National Park Service, you're nearly 7,000 times more likely to die outside a national park than inside a park. Although it's a little hard to make that comparison because the average visitor spends just under 8 hours there. And if you do find yourself in a potentially life-threatening situation, the park search and rescue has a stellar track record of saving people. Between 1992 and 2007, a study found that search and rescue saved 13,211 visitors who would have died without intervention, a number that far exceeds the national park's annual death toll for the same period. And while Yosemite officially ranks the third most dangerous park, that's only part of the story. When you put that in context with the number of visitors each park receives, then this list dramatically changes. If you correlate death with the number of park visitors, Yosemite drops all the way down to 15th place, with just 2.58 deaths per million. Using this data set, the most dangerous park in the US is actually the North Cascades. Its brutal terrain averages 55 deaths per million visitors, more than 20 times Yosemite's rate. So yes, Yosemite's dangers are real, but the odds are still firmly on your side, if you respect them. Give wildlife space, especially the deer, stick to the speed limits, choose your swimming spots wisely, and no matter how it might look on Instagram, never risk your life for a photo.